What's going on, Crimson Tide fans? It is the off season right now, so naturally there's going to be less views here on the channel, but you guys can certainly help us out. We are trying to build a community here on the Alabama Football Report. So help me out, share today's video, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is. We are trying to get more people in the comment section and subscribe here on the channel. So the best way to do that is for you guys to share today's video. We certainly would appreciate it. All right, coming up on today's show, we had a lot of recruiting news go down yesterday. Alabama had 2 flips. There were also a couple of official predictions go out from the BamaOnline staff. So we're kind of going to recap that, especially one of these commitments. We were actually live on our Cowboys channel, so didn't get a chance to put a shorter video out for you guys. So we're going to break all that down, as well as the wild comments made by Florida State quarterback Tommy Castellanos, just kind of calling out Alabama now before they get into that game. So we'll break it all down here on the channel. Yesterday, Alabama had 2 players end up flipping to them. You had Ryle Kelly and Javari Burnett. Kelly, number 85 safety in this class. Burnett, the number 30 running back in this class. And there's been this narrative that I've seen over the last couple of days. It started out when Alabama got J.J. Finch to end up committing in this class as well, that, we are Alabama and, what are we doing recruiting all these 3 stars? I don't get it. There's this emergency with the recruiting trail and Kayla Nabor and the staff don't know what they're doing. I don't know really where this is coming from. Nick Saban, recruited 3 stars as well. This isn't a new thing of Alabama going out there and landing 3 stars. But I do think right now, when you have this emergence now of NIL and revenue sharing now being added to the fold as well, you're going to get 3 stars. But look, this is Alabama. You're also going to get a lot of 4 stars, and you're also going to get a couple 5 stars as well in each recruiting class. I was watching Clint Lamb talking to Jimmy Stein yesterday, and I thought Clint really did put it best when talking about why Alabama is going out and recruiting 3 stars. He said, I think when you've got a set amount of money that you can spend, you've got to go about it one of 2 ways. You have your priority guys there at the top that you're going to be able to set aside a chunk of money that you can pay them. Alabama doesn't get into the NIL game as far as the highest bidder. They don't do that. They evaluate and they make other types of pitches. To balance what you are giving those guys, you've got to have phenomenal evaluation. You've got to be able to go out and get what I would view as guys viewed not as highly. They're a little bit cheaper, obviously, when you can kind of balance and manage. And if you can hit on those players, which this is where I think Kayla Nabor and this Alabama coaching staff, their experience at Washington, this is the type of players that they had to go out there and get. And then you had to develop them if you wanted to be a national championship contender. And obviously, we saw that Kayla Nabor and, a lot of the guys that were on that staff are also on this staff now at Alabama. They were able to go out there and get some 3 stars, some lower-rated players. They were able to develop those guys, and they ultimately did go and make it to a national championship. Obviously, they didn't win it, but when we're talking about these 3 stars, I think you have to put more trust into this Alabama coaching staff in terms of evaluating some of these lower guys. And I understand, there were some guys last year, Latier Brooks, Keelan Russell, are 2 of the guys that we go out there and we talk about it a lot as guys that were underrated when Alabama ended up offering them. It's still yet to be seen. So, if they end up developing and turning into these players that we do think that they're going to end up being. But to play devil's advocate and be on the side of some of those people that are kind of complaining about this, you still do have to wait and see, and you still do have to end up developing those players. So let me know what you guys think down at the pinned comment of today's video. Do you trust this Alabama coaching staff's ability to evaluate talent, especially some of these guys that are on the lower end, that are 3 stars? Let me know what you guys think. Type Y for yes or N for no. All right, we also had a couple of predictions here from the BamaOnline staff. Yesterday, we did talk about Cederian Morgan, the number 1 player out of the state of Alabama, the number 2 wide receiver in this class. We talked about him, but then today, Mack Sutter, also the number 6 tight end, the BamaOnline staff also putting in an official prediction for Alabama to land him. He will announce his commitment decision, I believe, on Thursday, June 26th as well. So that's another prediction added to the fold from the BamaOnline staff. We also talked about Owen Cable as well. He's another guy. He's very, very low ranked, but look, you also have to take into consideration, I think, that there's only so many guys that, whether it's 247, on 3 rivals, whatever you want to call it, there's only so many guys that they can actually go out and see in person. And if these guys aren't hitting camps, or if they're not hitting the right camps, they're not going to go up in the recruiting rankings. That just is what it is. Cable had like 15 touchdowns last year, almost had 1,000 yards as well. So he's a very good player. Ran a 4.40 at Alabama's camp a couple of weeks ago. And he's a guy that this Alabama coaching staff and Jamarcus Shepard really did like a lot. We'll continue with our show and that Tommy Castellanos conversation here in just a second. But 4th of July is right around the corner, and you guys can get set up with a new Alabama 4th of July t-shirt here just by going to chatsports.com/Bama4th. That's the number 4 and then TH at the end of it as well. So get set up with an Alabama shirt. It says Crimson Tide on there, looking like the American flag. Solid shirt right there for the 4th of July. So go to chatsports.com/Bama4th to get that. I'll put that link in the comment section and the description of today's video, plus a little clickable link over there in the corner of your screen as well. All right, we had some shots fired here from Tommy Castellanos, the Florida State quarterback. He was talking to On3's Pete Nakos the other day and just had some really wild comments about this coming up game, the first game of the season against Alabama. Before we get into the actual quote about Alabama, I just wanted to throw this one up here as well because it was very anti-Bill O'Brien, and it was just a good chance for me to continue to push my anti-Bill O'Brien sentiment that I have here. He said, Boston College wasn't the school for me. I wasn't able to be myself, and I had to try to make myself be something that I wasn't. I just didn't like it. Bill O'Brien and I butted heads earlier in the season, and I got banged up for a few games. We had a meeting. It kind of blew up in my face, and I did so much for that program, and I did everything that I could, and I just wasn't repaid the right way. And I'll be completely honest with you. When it comes to Bill O'Brien and Tommy Castellanos, he got worse in terms of the running game after Bill O'Brien got there. Obviously you see there that touchdown to interception ratio got a little bit better once Bill O'Brien got there. But when you're going from 1,100 rushing yards and 13 rushing touchdowns added on to the passing yards as well, to only 194 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown, that is solely on the play calling, and in my opinion, it's on Bill O'Brien there. I don't think he utilized what Tommy Castellanos does best, which is utilizing his legs in the run game, and I think he does have a very solid point about Bill O'Brien and not being able to utilize his skill set. So before now we get into the actual quote that set a lot of fans off on social media, predict the score to Alabama versus Florida State. First game of the season down at Florida State. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section of today's show. Now, this is the comment that made a lot of Alabama fans out there very, very angry yesterday. Tommy Castellanos talking to Pete Nakos saying, I'm excited, man. People, I don't know if they know, but you go back and watch the first games that I played in. We always start out fast. I dreamed of moments like this. I dreamed of playing against Alabama. They don't have Nick Saban to save them. I just don't see them stopping me. Now, I appreciate the bulletin board material here that Tommy Castellanos has given this Alabama football team going into the first game of the season. I'll be completely honest, though. I am a little bit nervous about Castellanos' ability to run the football. We've seen, you go all the way back, guys like Johnny Manziel, Nick Marshall, Jackson Arnold last year, Byron Brown, the South Florida quarterback the last 2 years, Diego Pavia last year, Deshaun Watson in 2016, 2017. Alabama really did struggle stopping those mobile quarterbacks. Whether or not they were really consistent throwing the ball or not really didn't make much of a difference. You see a guy like Jackson Arnold, Byron Brown, Diego Pavia, they weren't super consistent in throwing the ball, but man, when it came to, just different types of quirks in the offense, they really were able to utilize those teams anyways, their coaches. They were able to utilize the skill sets of their quarterbacks. And now you're adding Gus Malzahn, former Auburn coach, into the picture as well. We know going back to his time at Auburn, he had 3 wins versus Alabama, and he was really able to just get the best out of his players. And a lot of times it was using that running quarterback to be able to, create mismatches and run all over these Alabama defenses. So I am a little bit nervous about his ability to run the ball. And, we saw it last year as well. Alabama struggled at times when those running quarterbacks with some, quirky types of offenses, they had some struggles with that. Now, this game in particular, I do see it going 2 different types of ways. It's either going to be, remember back in 2017, Alabama went to Florida State, or I guess they didn't go to Florida State. It was that, Chick-fil-A kickoff game back in 2017. You had DeAndre Francois as the quarterback for Florida State. He's going into that season. He's a Heisman contender going into the season. Florida State is ranked like number 3. Alabama's ranked like number 1. A very, very high-profile game. He ends up going down. I believe he tore his ACL in that game. Alabama ends up winning that game 24-7. And, really after he went down, it really wasn't close. But that first quarter, it did seem, kind of close. Or Castellanos and Gus Malzahn put together an incredible game plan and have a field day against Alabama's defense. And, it's going to end up looking like that Vanderbilt game. So either way it goes, I really hope this Alabama defense, Kane Womack, everybody involved, is able to, really shut down that quarterback run, because honestly, I think that is going to be the only thing that Florida State can really, hold on to end up winning that game down at Florida State. Before we get out of here, just want to, give a shout out. Alabama did receive another commitment here this afternoon, but it was a long snapper, so we threw it at the end of today's show. Also a walk-on. I believe Charlie Potter was the first one to report that this was actually a walk-on. Eli, I believe his last name is pronounced like Deutsch or something like that. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce his last name, so I'm very, very sorry about that. But Alabama is now adding a long snapper as a walk-on to their 2026 recruiting class. So go ahead and welcome Eli to Alabama's 2026 class. Spam your RTRs down in the comments section of today's show.